So you've been asked to be on an Eagle board review. Congratulations! Now what? Hey, ScouterStan. Let's talk a little bit about this Eagle board review. Now, an Eagle board of review. Now, think about it. It's a board set up to review a scout. This isn't a trial. Okay, so and it's wonderful that you've been asked to sit on the board. The board of review literally goes over all of the things that it takes to be an Eagle Scout, and there is a structure, and this structure is completely covered under the Guide to Advancement, section 8 and 9. It talks about all the different possibilities. And those two sections are dedicated towards this absolutely critical board that's put together. Now, we're going to get more into that, but this is really to determine this scout and getting them to the highest rank in scouting, known as an Eagle Scout. Now, let's talk a little bit about the structure of an Eagle board review. There are key people. Of course, you have to have the candidate. The candidate will normally have all of the paperwork, their handbook, their project, everything involved with all of the requirements for the rank of Eagle Scout. That's a critical person. You have to have them there. The second big person that you need there is somebody from council or district that is knowledgeable and has run boards of review in the past. These Eagle board members, they run the board meeting. They actually go there and do that. Then you also have your troop that can be involved. This could be committee members, and it could be general public members. There are certain people that are not permitted to be on the board, mainly Scoutmasters and assistant Scoutmaster. Those aren't allowed on the board, and of course family is not allowed on the board. So it's made very impartial. So it sounds like it's a trial, but it's not. It's a board of review. And there's certain people that there has to be a minimum of 3 board members and then a maximum of 6. Anything beyond 6 is not allowed. Anything less than 3 is not allowed. So it's between 3 and 6. That's it. That is an absolute structure of what an Eagle board of review looks like. Now, when you put a board together, you need to think about timing. Definitely put aside about an hour and a half. Now, that's not just the interview part. We'll get to that. But the instruction part at the beginning, that's when the board sits down without the candidate in the room, and they discuss any issues, and they discuss any of the references. They read them over and they discuss them. They talk about the mission statement of the Scout. These are great places to focus some of the questions. Okay, that's kind of at the very beginning, and that could be anywhere from a half hour, up to 40 minutes. So that you want to set that time aside. During that time, the Scout, the candidate, would be out of the room, and they'd be sitting with their family or the Scoutmaster or their mentors. That's something that they do. Then once the board is ready, once they're ready, and this is critical, I've run a lot of these, and I always ask the question, is there a concern or an issue that we need to discuss before we continue? I want that up front. I don't want any zings or gotchas or any of that stuff going on. So I always ask that question. And most of the time, this is the best Scout they got. Okay, so there isn't an issue. That's the thing. But if there is an issue, I want to know about it ahead of time so we could talk about it with the board without the scout there, without even starting. Okay, that's really the next step. At the very beginning of the board review, it's called introductions, and that's when the scout is brought in and is introduced either by a scoutmaster or a mentor. This is a wonderful thing, traditional in a lot of troops, to kind of review all the camp outs and camporees and all the neat things they've done. This is optional. It could be his, this is the scout, he's life scout, he's gotten approved, he's got his verified application, and so on. Here he is. And at that point, that's the introduction. Once that happens, the council district guy or gal will actually start the process, and they'll say something like, on behalf of the National Council, I hereby convene this Eagle Board of Review. Eagle candidate, and this is addressed to them, please lead us in an opening prayer, the Pledge of Allegiance, and of course the Scout Oath and Scout Law. This is just like a troop meeting, okay? It's identical to a troop meeting. That's how you start the meeting, right? You start with those 4 basic things. That's what the scout is to do, and that is a critical part of that introduction. Now, the next big part is the actual interview with the scout, and I always focus my questions on Scout Oath and Scout Law. This is something that all Eagle Scouts should know. They should know what those parts, all the different parts of the Scout Oath and Scout Law, and how they work with one another. This is the toolbox of scouting. And usually with new people on the board, I will try to focus their questions towards answering some of those basic things, like what is their definition of thrifty? What's their definition of brave? What's their what does it mean to be honor? What does honor mean to them? These are really basic questions that every Eagle candidate is usually asked, most of them, and this is something that it needs to be defined, that they know these things. That's an important thing. And it's not your retesting. You never retest. Any boards of review, you never retest. In fact, check out the board of review video. Talks about that. And with an Eagle board of review, we don't hand them a piece of rope and say, tie me a square knot. That's not permitted. We might ask, what would you use a square knot for? Have you ever used it? Have you used it recently? That could be a question. This is something that, that a lot of scouts that are going for Eagle, they get all nervous and all concerned. This whole interview process, usually there's questions. And I always have about 20 questions that I'm always known for. And these are things that I bring. The new people bring them in. You could read them off of a list. You can get lists off the internet. Usually your troop will provide you with a list of sample questions. But that's really what the interview process, 25 to 30 minutes. It can go longer, but as the advocate for the scout, in that situation, I usually ask them, I says, we don't really have a lot of information about this thing that happened. Could we're going to go a little long, is that okay? And they usually say yes, because they want to clear things up. And that might be something to do with their project. So that's something that goes on. And from my standpoint, if I'm there as their advocate, I want to listen in on all the questions. I've got a checklist that I use, and that's the nice thing about it. I try to make it consistent with every single scout that comes up for an Eagle board of review. But as a new member just go by the list of questions. That's just an easy thing to do. You can add your own flavor to it, or if you think of your own questions, that's totally permissible. You can use those. That's the neat thing about a board of review. No two are the same, but the same things are covered. That's the interesting thing about it. When we go through that process, I'm usually sitting aside and I'm going over their project. I'm like the last eyes on their project to make sure it's all the signatures are there, the money has been taken care of, any fundraising issues have been addressed. Those are things that I take care of. And the rest of the board can do that too. They can also go over that and ask those questions. But usually 25 to 30 minutes is the interview. Now, after the interview is deliberation. The scout is then excused. And usually it's followed with a question like, is there a question you thought we would ask but we didn't? I would ask a question like that. And that usually is followed with, well, at this point we're going to take a break and deliberate. Okay? And then the scout is excused from the room and the board is left. No additional observers, nobody. Okay, and on the subject of observers, it is completely okay if the scout wants to have an impartial observer in the room. Okay, they usually sit behind the scout, but they don't say anything. They're told that they will not be asked any questions, and they're not to say anything. They're just observing the process. This is up to the scout. Now, this could be the Scoutmaster in some cases, and that can be controversial. But they should sit in the back, okay, behind the scout. Scout doesn't even see them during the interview. That's the thing, and they can't really jump in or ask questions or clarify or anything. They have to be totally silent. That's totally fine in my book. There are rules on that. Family would not be permitted, and a limit. We don't need an audience back there. Just one person. That's fine. A mentor, fantastic. If the scout objects, they're out of the room. That's the thing. If they don't want somebody behind them listening in on the whole board process, then they can go. Okay, and that's up to the scout. There are some units that are very strict that do not permit any of that in the room. There's some units that permit all their Scoutmasters. No, it's not an audience thing. This is a learning opportunity for that leader to literally listen in on the board and know what's going to be going on. What are the kind of questions that the boards are going to ask? This is great for Scoutmasters that have to do the Scoutmasters conference with the scout. So they need that experience. They could be in the room. There has to be a reason, not just tradition, not just random. There has to be an actual reason for that. But they're not part of the board of review. If the interview is going on with the scout, they can have them in the background, but they cannot say anything. They cannot ask any questions. That's just not permitted. And that if they become disruptive, they're asked to leave. So, that's the thing about that with having observers in the room for that very reason. It's nice from my standpoint. I don't know the troop. I don't know their dynamics. I don't know all of their things that are going on. I'm the outsider, and I'm there as an advocate for the scout. Everyone else has been camping and done things with the troop and the scout, and it is very important that they have that camaraderie and work towards the betterment of their unit. Sometimes there'll be a question, and after the scout is dismissed during deliberation, I will also ask for the Scoutmaster to come back in and say, hey, what about this question? What happened with this? Did that get done? Did that get finished? Is this done? that might be a question that the Scoutmaster would know. So, or the observer would know. So these are very, you have to do them consistently, but they're very independently done. Okay, you have to work out that whole process. But going by the Guide to Advancement, section 8 and 9, totally in that realm. Okay, so that's totally fine. Deliberations. Once we get into deliberations, it has to be 100%. Now, keep in mind, in scouting, this is a board of review. We're reviewing all of the requirements to be an Eagle Scout. We're making sure that all the paperwork is there, all the signatures and dates match. You know, between the signatures of the project and the page 2 of the application. Those have to match. We're one of many eyes that have gone over this application, and that's the neat thing about having so many different levels looking through these things. They're usually pretty much done. They're completed. Unless there's an actual issue, an actual objection, normally it's 100%. You get 100% unanimous vote, and it's usually to the positive. I was in a board of review that came close to being snagged, being that there was a total of 5 of us. One did not think that the questions were answered correctly, or that something was left undone. That was an objection. So that was the only one out of hundreds, okay, that came close. But we were able to work it out. We found the paperwork. Everything was great. And so we got 100%. So that's typically what the deliberation part is. It's to confirm that everything has been checked, and double-checked, triple-checked. And once that's done, the deliberation is over, and it's 100%. They're an Eagle Scout at that moment. Hey, before we go any further, I want to make sure that you know that you're invited to the campfire chat. This is a live meeting right here on this channel that we do every first Sunday at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. This is a great way to ask questions and not just me, but a lot of the guests that we have on the fireside chat. Definitely check that out. Also, I want to thank all of the Patreon for all of their support of this channel. In addition to that, we have our own membership right here on the channel. This is a fantastic way to get involved on this channel. Definitely hit the join button. It'll give you a bunch of information that'll tell you a little bit more about that process. So definitely get involved. We're going to just jump right on back. Types of questions that you can ask at an Eagle Board Review can really focus around Scout Oath and Scout Law. And there's 3 parts, 3 promises made in that oath, and those are all combined with the law. Okay? And when you combine those as the questions, it really helps as far as making sure that the scout is ready and has those skills. Most of them wouldn't be there otherwise. They have those skills just to make sure that they know how to use those skills. What I call the tools in the scouting toolbox. Use those tools and build a good foundation to a very, very good life for as long as they are using those skills, those things out of that toolbox. It's amazing what they can build. Now, you might be saying, well, what should I not ask? This is something that really you should talk about during the introduction phase before they start the actual interview process, before the introduction. All of the board members need to talk about it. Talking about faith, as in a religion or something of that nature, is important in scouting. We are a religious movement. We have it in our Scout oath to God and country. We talk about that. And so the questions on that are not necessarily on their devotion of their faith. It should be questions of how are they going to move forward with their faith. That would be an appropriate faith question. It's not that you can't ask them, prove your faith. That would be inappropriate anywhere. It wouldn't be reverent, would it? We respect different beliefs and different ideas. So that's the thing. So that might get into that realm of something you don't want to get into. That is one of those issues in scouting. A lot of people talk about it, but it's been my experience that most scouts that are in an Eagle Board of Review are very faithful scouts, and that it's a wonderful conversation when you get into faith and talking about religion and so on. That is a good conversation that can be problematic, and that's something you need to work out at the beginning. Very important. Of course, anything that would be towards the scout or towards family or any of the other stuff, that shouldn't be a part of it. Try to focus. If you're new on the board, try to focus. Scout oath, scout law. And there's questions. They give you questions. You got those right in front of you. You could ask one of those. You could add to it, but don't go towards something that might be upsetting to everybody. So try to keep it within the confines of scout oath, scout law. That's where it should all be. Now, evaluating readiness is important when you're looking at the questions. There could be questions about how do you plan to get the education for the career that you want to do. That could be something that you can kind of dive into. And with using the Scout Oath and Scout Law, tell me some of the things, the tools out of that scouting toolkit that are going to help you towards learning those skills. That could be something. Now, as a side note, for mentors of Eagles, there is a series of videos, 4 videos, that go through the different phases. Now, phase 3, part 2, is about the board review. So if you'd like to see that, there's the video. That video talks about the board review also. And it might help as far as a mentor. If you're a mentor or working with a scout and you're on the board, but this may not be the one you're mentoring that you're on that board for. So, I have those videos there so that you can look at them and try to get some ideas. It's a wonderful thing. Now, when it comes to the deliberation process, it is extremely confidential. I gave a for instance of a situation where the board of 5 scouters, one of them had an objection. And we were able to go through the paperwork and make sure that was done, that the signature was done and the dates matched and everything was good. And at that point, it was unanimous. So it is confidential and private. That type of discussion causes a lot of problems. That person held you up. No, they don't need that, okay? So it is private and confidential. If you have an actual issue, it needs to be addressed. We need to do it now. Once the decision is made, once this happens, there's no going back. It's permanent. So it's important that deliberation is confidential. So if somebody has an issue, they bring it up, they work it out. That's the neat thing about the Eagle Board of Review. Now, delivering that information to the scout that's becoming an Eagle Scout, it is completely up to the district council representative if they want to do it, or the troops board of review chairman would want to do that. So it varies. some traditions. Sometimes the troop has a tradition of announcing it, and they have a process or a thing that they do. So you have to discuss that with them. Usually during deliberations at the end, that's usually something that comes up. We ask that question. There's a presentation to the scout because they become an Eagle Scout at that moment. It's not the board. It's not the Eagle Court of Honor that they become an Eagle Scout. They might do that months before. They might do it. They do that at the Board of Review. That's where they become an actual Eagle Scout, where they can wear the patch and the whole thing. I mean, it is. That's where it happens. So it's important that it's announced appropriately so that the scout is actually very clear about that. It is very important that the scout is sat down and talked to about the importance of what they've achieved. Getting an eagle is permanent. It is something that they take beyond scouting. When they go on in the rest of their lives, they're still an Eagle Scout. Once an Eagle Scout, always an Eagle Scout. That is there, and that needs to be very plain to them. There are instructions of the packet and all the stuff that needs to happen to make sure that it gets processed in the next step. And that's something the Eagle Scout can go through. Some of the board may have heard this several times, and it's the same for all. So that might be something that the board member might excuse themselves, and they don't need to go through all of that. They've done their job. They've done it, okay? And it's just a matter of sitting and talking with the scout and their parents and talking about all that has happened and all that needs to happen to get the process done, okay? That's the key. Now, once that paperwork is sent in and all of that's been done, they're an Eagle Scout. They will always be an Eagle Scout. That's something that it's a permanent thing. This is a rank that's earned, and you keep it for life. And that's the important thing. A lot of scout leaders, a lot of scouting people may not know. You could be in scouting for 12 years as a youth and then leave as an Eagle Scout. You're still in scouting for the rest of your life. Technically, you're an Eagle Scout. That makes it very important. And it's important that we have people like yourself on the board. And we need more people to do that, okay? It is a great thing that we're doing. Creating Eagle Scouts for a better America, for a better future. That is something that we need to focus on. And with the renaissance of scouting going on right now, Scouting America is going to be going through the roof. Okay? I think it's going to do it. And it's because of people like yourself giving their time and joining those boards of review where they're needed so badly. Thank you so much for getting involved in that. We do a lot for our scouts, and you're doing a lot for this scout. When you sit in on that board of review, it's amazing to see all of those things come to life. It is amazing. And keep up that really good hard work, and be thankful to all of your leaders within your unit. It's amazing. So keep up that good hard work. And if you want more information, once an eagle, always an eagle. It's right up there. Check it out. Till next time, I'll see you on the trail.